and now I am in Virginia Beach.
All
And
right.
that is where actually Dawn down below lives in Virginia Beach as well. And also that's where my kids, Josh is going to be 40 next month, if you can imagine that. And he's got three kids. And then Christy is here and she's 36 and she's got two kids. So all the grandkids are here.
All
So
right.
that's at
That
least
probably explains
50%.
why you're there. Yeah.
It does. It does.
Mhm.
So, well, everyone, I want to welcome you tonight as we're going to talk about the other side of helping. Um, and I know that you're here because you care deeply about people. And probably for some of you, you may be even the go-to person for quite a few people that are in your life. But helping others comes with a cost. And most helpers, I think, are either unaware or they minimize that cost until the bill comes due. And so, just to kick us off, I would love to hear you answer this in a sentence or two. But what has it cost you to help others, to give to others, to serve others? And so, you'll see they're also on the worksheet. And I did put it in the chat. And I did send it to you today. So I hope that you have a chance to use that because that'll be really helpful in kind of guiding us today because it'll have a lot of the things on that we're going to be referring to. So anyway, you'll see on there the sentence question, what has sacrificing your own needs for the well-being of others? Again, that's family, that's work, your calling, your friendship, your church, some other place. But what has that cost you? And I, again, just invite you to come off mute and just share in a sentence, what has that cost you? Yeah.
Greg, it's been a it overextending has proved to reinforce a lie that I believed about myself. And it's very, very subtle because you think on the surface you're helping, but it's in reality it's like, oh, wait a second, it's more of an internal fight that I've had.
Yes. And I love that word overextending. And so with that,
Mm.
again, what has overextending yourself cost somebody else or cost you? I want
Mm.
somebody else to answer.
Yeah, for me, it has cost me a lot of slowed growth. That's just where I am right now. And it's frustrating. I've given a lot away for the purpose of being Christ-like or just being a helper of all. And it has cost me a time and growth.
Yeah, absolutely. And I imagine a few of you might even be able to resonate with that because you realize maybe it's cost you something. One last person want to share what it's cost you?
First word that came to my mind was resentment.
Mm,
So I developed hard feelings towards the people that I love, the people that I was, right, serving and giving.
yes. Ken, I'm glad that you brought that up because that often is the cost, is there's this growing resentment of giving when we really, really haven't wanted to give for whatever reason, right? Because even Paul talks about uh, giving not out of compulsion, but kind of freely. And if it's not freely, then like, don't worry about it. Well, what I like to do is I like to kind of help illustrate that dynamic that happens when we give and we give and we give. So this says self on it, right? And it's full of resources and my time and my energy. And this is who I am. And so for you, probably you have one that might say family on it. Now, you might be immediate family, extended family, might be all kinds of family, but you can find yourself on any typical day or week, right? Pouring and giving out to them. But they're not the only ones. You also have friends, and you might have neighbor friends, you might have acquaintance friends, you might have social media friends, you might have all kinds of friends, and you end up spending time giving out resources and listening and caring. But some of you probably also have another jar of people. It might not just be one, it might be lots. And you're a leader, you're a team leader, you're working together, but you're giving to them as well. But we're not done yet because we still have the church, or maybe there's some other social club or some other outside thing. Maybe you play mahjong, whatever it is that you have all of them, right? And they take more acts of service, maybe of care, and maybe the responsibility. And then there's some of you, it might even be this idea of ministry or your clients or your customers, or there are these other people, and you end up giving to them. And then what happens when you're empty? So my question for you is, again, so some of us are really good at being the sourcee. We're really good at sourcing others all the time. But what happens when we're empty, when we don't get refilled? What happens to you?
Crash and burn.
Crash and burn. Anybody crash and burn in their lifetime? How many times?
So
Someone else.
I've
Yeah, go ahead.
sometimes muscled through and pushed on because I felt like I had to, because that was where I found my worth, was in what I was doing for others. And so I just like push and push and push.
Yes. Yes. And so that's another way to kind of like we just push, 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 push. Wonderful. Somebody else had something they wanted to share about what happens when our souls don't get restored.
Depressed.
Oh, yeah, there's a great one. That happens too. It can get very depressing when you do that. So you're going to see there's a couple of questions. I want you to write down who, and you can actually even say what drains your time, energy, and resources, and who or what actually fills you and gives you life. So just take a minute and reflect on that. And if you can, write some things down. If you don't have a pen or paper or your notes, maybe put it on your iPhone or some other place, but just take a moment and reflect on that. So it's good to kind of assess like, sometimes we can just get caught up in automatically giving, serving, and helping and caring. And it's good just to step back and like, oh, what actually really fills up my life and what actually drains it? So tonight we're going to learn how to refill your tank or your cup. And we're also going to learn how to limit those energy drains that deplete you so that you're operating from a cup that's overflowing, not an empty cup. Because when it's empty, I, it doesn't really do anything other than, as Peter said, probably make me more um, angry or resentful, or Deborah said, more depressed, or as Charlene said, I'm just going to keep pushing through, and it just makes me in a worse place than ever. So there are 5 pieces that we're going to work our way through together tonight. The first one is notice your body and your soul's early warning signs. You see, probably if you're like most everybody, we're pretty unaware of the signals going on inside or in our bodies of overload or depletion. So let's just brainstorm some of those physical signs. Anyone? Yeah.
I think, especially like when you're at a desk and you're always rolling over your shoulders in, your shoulders are always under constant stress, and they're not designed to be in this position. So, I should say tension and or maybe even micro tears or injury.
Nice. So there are lots of physical signs, but some that will be unique to you. How about some emotional signs? What might you notice?
Being short with people, irritation, as a result of just being stretched too thin and giving too much.
Yes, I love that. Stretched too thin and giving too much. And so again, we're back to, and so when that other person shows up, they get our irritation and our annoyance because we're operating out of a depleted state. What might be some spiritual signs?
Feeling dry and not really connected in the spiritual disciplines like reading the Bible, praying, going to worship in church. It's like dry and rote and not feeling really connected.
Try and rote. Those are great words or great signs or signals that something is amiss. Great. Finally, what might be some relational signs? Coletta touched on a little bit of that, but anything else that anyone might notice as far as relationally? What would be a sign?
Withdrawing.
Yeah, drawing. Anybody relate to that one?
Yeah, just
Right, because
disconnected.
disconnected, right?
Disconnected because you have no energy for anyone
Right.
else.
Yes, absolutely. And so that's our way to survive is to be able to pull back. Right. So all of those are indicators and they're telling you and me something that's really important, much like the lights on your dashboard of your car. I know these days, most of our cars' computer system takes care of things, so we don't have as many lights or signals or things going off. But there are some people, probably the people in my church growing up, they would just take a sledgehammer and they would just whack all of those things because they just wanted to ignore them. Like, oh, we just need to trust God and give it to God, and then we'll be just great, right? But actually, God wired us that way because those signals are trying to actually get our attention about something that's really important. So, love to you put either in the chat or maybe just share something. But what are your early signs of overload before you hit that wall of exhaustion? Or as people have said, you walk away, you blow up, you just have nothing left to give, and you just feel resentful. So just would love a few of you to share maybe what's one of your early signs of overload or depletion.
Dread with something that I've said yes to or that someone's asked me to do. Dreading it.
Yes, yes. That dread. One more person. What's your early warning sign?
Feeling lethargic.
Oh, yes. 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 Lethargic is a great one. I can relate to that. Absolutely. Thank you. My therapist pointed that out lately. So thank you. That there's something going on. He's just like, you need to pay attention to that. That's telling you something, Greg, rather than how do we typically what do we typically do when these signs show up? So Charlene already said one of the things that we do is we tend to push through. So just raise of hands is be honest. Is one of your ways to deal with that is to push through.
Mhm.
All right,
Right.
right, right. All right. Another way that people do is we minimize. We like, oh, come on, it's not that bad. Suck it up. Who minimizes those signs? Anyone? Okay, great. Yes, thank you. I appreciate that honesty. How about spiritualizing? I just need to have more faith. I just need to
Yeah.
pray more, pray
That's a big
harder.
one. Yeah, big one.
Okay, all
Yeah.
right, right, Mother. And the final one, it's pretty common, is we shame ourselves. What is wrong with you? Why are you so weak? Come on, seriously. Anybody do the shaming?
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right. What's really cool is that the way God designed us, our bodies and our souls, is not to betray us. They're actually just alerting us to something that's amiss. And so, what might be a signal that you may have been ignoring lately? Maybe even just this week as you think back about, oh my gosh, if I'm really honest, gosh, that thing's been like going off and I just keep trying to shut it off. Anyone?
Depression for me.
Okay. Depression. Absolutely. That's a real thing to pay attention to. One more person. What's an early warning sign that's happening in the past week for you?
Lots of tears. I needed to reach out to a friend.
Yes. That's great that you notice that. Lots of tears are kind of a sign that there's something going on that needs some attention. Nice. All right. So that's the first thing. Just starting to notice that, which again, the growing up the culture that I did, that wasn't natural. That is unnatural. It's atypical. And so that's an important thing just to get in touch with what's going on in there. All right. Let's move on to step number 2. This is to name your pattern. This is kind of when does helping come out of something less than healthy? So all of you have a great desire to help other people grow. And that's a really beautiful, important thing. And what's so interesting is that same desire can also be hijacked by a deficit in any one of our core character traits. Let me just pause for a quick minute about core character traits. Those of you that have been with us or with the Townsend Institute or those kinds of things, that's a familiar language and verbiage to you. For others of you, and that's why the email that I sent earlier today, I sent a link to an assessment. And it helps you just to kind of assess, oh, well, I wonder what mine are. And that's really helpful. You'll also see further down on the worksheet that that word core character traits is hyperlinked, and that'll take you to a deeper explanation of it. So we are going to talk about it in a way that if you are a beginner, we're going to try to catch you up to speed, but we're going to kind of assume you understand some of that because this is going to be an important piece. And let me tell you why by sharing an example. Often in those 39 years where I was an associate pastor at my church, my most frequent compliment was, Gregg, you are the pastor who cares the most. And I loved hearing that. I'd hear it pretty often. It felt really good. Here's the question. What need of mine might I had been unconsciously hoping to get met by caring so much for the people in my church?
Attach-
So I heard 2 words. I heard attachment and I heard
Approval.
and approval. And you're right. It was my need for people to listen to me by listening to them and for approval. They kind of liked Gregg. Gregg was kind of the guy that really cared about other people. And so in that sense, gave me that sense of approval. Now, I'm going to talk more about that in a few more minutes, but just want to kind of introduce that idea because I want to help you to see that helping can also be a way to manage our needs, our fears, shame, and loneliness. So we're going to do this little exercise about why am I really helping? And for this one, you're going to see here on the PowerPoint. I hope everybody can see that. Give me a thumbs up if you can see it. I want to make sure everybody can see it. Okay, great, wonderful. So I need a volunteer, and they're volunteering to read each of these one at a time because we're going to just kind of explore it a little bit. What we're really going to do is we're going to have the rest of the group kind of guess at the hidden motive that might be contributing to that person's helpfulness. So is there a volunteer that would care to do that for us, please?
Greg, I'll read it.
You know
Starting with
something,
the,
Don? Okay, great. So you could, Don, I'm going to have you read this page, and then there's going to be a second page. When we get over that one, Charlene had raised her hand, and then she's going to read that page. So Don, just read the leader one first, and we're going to talk about that, and then I'll have you read the next one.
when I found out that one of my staff's houses was broken into, my first impulse was to drive to her home. If I'm honest, it would have been more about how I look to other people than actually taking care of her.
And just so you know, these are actually taken from actual sessions of somebody saying this very words. As you can imagine, they were pretty honest when you get out there to me. But as you hear that, what's the kind of the hidden or the shadow motive about why this leader wanted to help? And this is for anybody.
It mattered how they looked to other people.
Mattered how they looked to other people. Exactly. Okay. Don, read the next one, the nonprofit.
I told one of my directors, don't worry about missing the meeting. I'll run your department today. Secretly, I was thinking, because I'm such a nice leader, who's always here for you?
So what's the hidden motive that's kind of in plain sight?
I think that's trying to be a people pleaser.
Being a people pleaser, absolutely. And with that, read the next one for the CEO.
I could have spent the whole weekend working and doing all the right things for our company. If I'm honest, part of me kept thinking how great it would look to others if I did that.
So what's kind of the shadow motivation about working all weekend? Anyone?
I want people to need me. Yeah.
I want people to need me. And there was another one I couldn't quite hear.
Just wanting recognition.
Yeah, both of those things. Great. The next one, Don, daughter.
With taking care of mom, there's the added pressure of what people think of me if I don't.
What's the underlying motivation for helping here?
If I don't do
Anyone?
that, people won't like me.
Yeah, people won't like me. Okay, Don, the next one, pastor.
When I'm invited to speak at yet another community event, I say yes, even though it's my only day off.
What's the hidden shadow motivation here? Anyone?
Recognition.
Recognition. Absolutely. And finally, Don, volunteer.
I'm on 3 teams at church: meals, prayer, visitation. Honestly, I'm afraid that if I step back from any of them, might be disappointed.
Yes. What's the motivation here, maybe? Anyone?
Yeah, and it sounds like fear of loss of relationship. And if I could say, several of them remind me of shame too. Like, if I don't do this, I'm a bad person.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
And who's going to be disappointed with me if that's me? Anyone?
Myself.
I'm going to be disappointed, and God might.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes. So I got to keep him happy, right?
Mhm.
All right. So we're on to a couple more. Charlene, can you do the small group leader?
When a group member texts at 10:30 p.m. that they're overwhelmed, I immediately offer to talk, even though it's way past my bedtime.
What might be the part of their motivation? Anyone?
To be needed.
To be needed.
Good.
Next one, Charlene.
When my friend vents for the 20th time about her marriage, I drop everything to listen. I'm scared that if I say I can't talk right now, she'll pull back or be disappointed with me.
So what might be part of what's driving her, helping her friend? Anyone?
The attachment.
Yep.
Fear.
Fear. Yep.
Mhm.
Team leader, Charlene.
A volunteer keeps asking me to meet for just a quick coffee to process things. I say yes because it feels easier than to say, I don't have space this week.
What might be underneath that?
No boundaries.
No boundaries. And what, there was somebody else that said something beside no boundaries?
I think I said absolutely. I was just agreeing.
Okay. Okay. All right. Great. Okay. Next one, Charlene.
A client often runs 5 to 10 minutes over. Instead of stopping them, I keep listening and let them talk, telling myself they really need this.
Why are they still listening?
They
To
want to
feel
over,
valued.
yeah.
So go
Mhm.
ahead, Coletta, and then go ahead, Keith. I couldn't quite hear both of you.
To feel valued.
Yeah, to feel valued, like, wow, I'm really helping, and they really like this. Hmm. And then Keith,
Yeah, this is just another example of, even though you know you shouldn't, you're overextending and
yes,
you're short-circuiting the process. Yeah.
absolutely. Next one, Charlene.
My client keeps avoiding a hard conversation with their boss. Instead of letting them wrestle with solutions, I make suggestions from my crucial conversations training to help them draft phrases to use.
Hmm. Besides just helping, why else do you think they might be making suggestions? How might it make the coach feel?
Make them
Important.
feel dependent on. Yeah.
Codependent, I feel important. I bring value. They're getting their money's worth. It makes me feel good. Next one, Charlie.
My kid leaves dishes everywhere. I keep picking them up and cleaning the kitchen myself because asking him again feels like I'm nagging or being too much.
Huh. So this mom that sacrifices everything for our kids, what's that also about?
Boundaries.
Mhm.
Fear of her own rejection.
Yep. And the last one, Charlene.
My husband assumes I'll host his family for the holidays. I say, sure, whatever you want, and then work really hard to make it all happen.
Okay. And for that one,
Kind of like being the victim. Some people like being the victim.
absolutely. That's a great piece. Love that. So, as you look at all those, which one is your default motivation when you overextend, you're caring, you're helping, you're taking responsibility, or maybe even when you don't overextend it, it's just when you do care and help other people. So I want you to pick the one out. And if you want to be brave, just say, oh my gosh, that one, that's my default mode. Now, again, it doesn't mean it's all the time and 100%, but it's impacting you and why you help. So, any volunteers?
I will say just because I've been working so hard and I'm seeing some progress in chipping away at being such a deep people pleaser, like that was how I got where that was how I felt good about myself was when I was being helpful and praised for being helpful and recognized for being helpful. I'd get resentful if I was being helpful and nobody noticed or praised me for it. So, but that's I'm saying that because I am making some changes there. So.
Nice. And I really appreciate your vulnerability. And it's not easy for anyone to admit this, right? I mean, most people never would admit to any of those things, right? That would be just so shameful. And yet it's the reality. So thank you. Is there one more volunteer who wants to take a risk with us?
I will. You know that I don't, I have no filters. So I am learning positive intelligence, which is a whole other kind of program. And one of the things that that program teaches is that we all have saboteurs. And the saboteurs are a list of I don't know, maybe 9 or 10 things. And what you learn through the program is that your saboteur is actually a strength that is used to the nth degree, and it becomes negative for you and negative for people around you. My top saboteur is stickler. I am such a stickler, and that drives so much of my motivation for over committing, and it ties into my secondary saboteur, which is controller. And so anybody says, "Can you help?" I'm like, "I'm there." Like, no worries. Yes, I can help you
Yes,
figure this out so that I
absolutely.
can have my own agenda.
Absolutely. And I again love the honesty and the vulnerability here. And what's I'll say the ramifications for our community. And so again, if whether it's Coletta or me or you, but when we say yes and we help and we give and we serve and we sacrifice, how does the world usually view us? My experience is, wow,
Yeah.
they are so giving, so godly, so Christ-like, so whatever. And so guess what the person gets more of then? They get more of that. And then that just compounds that piece because there's almost this reinforcement as opposed to somebody say, why the heck did you say yes again? So it's really valued in our culture, in our churches, that we are really giving. You really care about others, don't you? Oh yeah, I'm a real servant of the Lord. So you could hear how that kind of plays out kind of nicely, sort of. All right. So step number 3, assess your, and that's an abbreviation for core character traits impact on why you help. So we've been kind of doing that already, right? But we're going to kind of dig a little bit more deeply into this. And so as we've been looking at this, we are now fully aware that there's this shadow side of helping, right? But that, as we already said, no one really acknowledges it, right? No one ever stands up front of an audience and say, you know, part of the reason why I'm really here is for me and what I'm going to get out of this. But I'm going to just act like it's all about you, right? Because if it's about me, then I'm a narcissist. But the reality is, it is there. And God actually has some interesting thing to say over in Ezekiel 39 about that, about the shepherds that should be caring for the sheep or actually eating the sheep and getting their own needs met. But that's a whole different workshop sermon that I'm going to give someday. But if you're interested, God actually notices it and it's pretty disgusting to him. And again, that's for another thing. So let me get back to what I mean. So when I talked earlier about why I would listen to others, I would say, if I could give it a percentage, about 75% was purely helping others. I think most people want to help other people, right? Want to help them grow and learn and thrive and flourish. And there really wasn't any part of that was about Greg necessarily. But 75% of that, if I could pick a number, again, it's 74 or 77 or whatever, any given day, any given person. But I was also secretly hoping, as some people already pointed out earlier, that I was hoping that someone would listen to me. So my own needs for attachment. So I'm going to roughly give that typically as 15%. So there was an element of that I was hoping that they would listen to me at some point and say, oh, Greg, tell me about your day. Finally, what I've been waiting for. And then there was this other piece, and it was a little less, but I was hoping that they would be happy with me, think well of me, like me. You're the caring pastor. And I'd say that'd be about 10%. But that came out of my deficit in the separation core character trait. The previous one, as somebody already said, was attachment. So I have these pieces that are going. There's some great pure desire. Then there's some need to be feeling good and attached, and then this lack of separation. So we're going to kind of use these percentages to help you assess each of these core character traits influence on you when you advise, lead, teach, coach, disciple, help, mentor, counsel, and just give to other people. All right. So you should see on your worksheet, the first one there that's up is attachment, right? Everybody see that okay? Okay, wonderful, great. So I think of when I first started, like as a pastor, I really didn't know much, and there were some challenges and I needed help. And so I thought, oh, I need some godly counsel, right? I need to find one of the elders, somebody that's older and wiser, and he could kind of mentor me and invest in me and help me and all those kind of things. And that would be great. And so every week I'd show up, I think it was 2 hours, and I'd listen for an hour and 55 minutes every week. He would just take his spiritual truth dump truck and back it up and unload to me, and I'd be listening. Oh my gosh, week after week after week until I finally quit and I realized he needed to be needed.
Yeah.
He needed to be heard. He needed to feel validated and worth and of value as much as anything.
Mhm.
So that's where this attachment kind of goes awry. So what we're going to do is we're going to walk through this first one. After that, you're just going to read through them all. But as we do, the piece that I want all of us to talk about is what is revealing about this shadow side of helping when operating from a low level of attachment. Okay, so attachment, it's about being close and connected, right? That's how we're designed to be. Good thing. And there's a healthy desire to help. I just enjoy people. When I'm responsive, emotionally present, it kind of flows out of who I am. Right. Those are wonderful motivations. But then underneath, there could be this kind of core belief. Often in the literature, it's referred to as an implicit core emotional learning. So we learn along the way that, hey, I really want or I need to be needed. And so I want people to need me so that I feel needed. And so that I like feeling seen and valued. And again, and back to Coletta, there's a good part of attachment, right? But then when it goes to the extreme, and I forget the word that she used for that, it actually there's like a downside or the shadow side or the underside of that piece. And so if you move over to the next one, it says over functioning behaviors. You could substitute the word dysfunctional behavior. But this is kind of how it shows up when it's coming from an unhealthy place. And this is often looking around for whoever needs help and then getting needs met indirectly by giving to others. Sometimes you might think of the word or the phrase quid quo pro. I give and you give to me. I listen, you listen to me. And it's kind of this transactional exchange. But often we probably don't put it in terms of that. So we just end up listening. We ask questions. We're at a party, yeah, listening, and we're secretly hoping they're going to start asking about me and make me feel really good and needed. So there are some reflection questions there that you can read through as well. So let me just give you another minute, look that over, and then let's talk about what's revealing to you about the shadow side of helping when someone or when you operate from this low level of attachment and it's kind of filling that attachment need in a less than healthy way. So some thoughts. Yeah, Keith, go ahead.
No, if I so if I stop being so helpful, what do I fear happen? I'm not gonna measure up. I'm gonna believe the lie that maybe I grew up with that I'm never going to amount to anything, or this is this perpetual lie that's not really there, and I just I need to quit it all in my head.
Yeah. Again, I really appreciate just your vulnerability about that. Thank you. One more person, does it kind of, what's it bring up for you about operating out of this kind of low level of attachment? And it's kind of an unhealthy way to get your needs met by listening and caring and giving.
Mine is the fear that people will go away. So I just
Yes.
giving and giving and giving and giving, so they
Yes.
don't go away.
Yes. Yeah. Kind of like somebody referred to as kind of closing the gap. So when you close the gap, they tend to stay closer, right? Absolutely. So again, I appreciate that vulnerability. And I imagine that some of us, maybe many of us, can identify with both of those things that you and Keith said. So what I want you to do is just reflect and write something down about what percentage of this kind of deficit and attachment might be influencing your motivation to help at times. And again, just right. And again, it could be like 2%. Every once in a while it comes up, but it's not a driver for me. You might be like, oh my gosh, it's like 25%. So again, we all know you're going to have a portion that is pure helping and pure goodness, but there's going to be this other piece or pieces that are part of your helping. And so we're just kind of recognizing it for what it is. All right. Second core character place is separation. So, unfortunately, my mom, because of her own stuff, kind of set me up to take care of her and others always before considering my own needs. Even one of the last conversations that we had around a dinner table with my dad, and he said something in his usual not nice way, and she looked at me and she goes, "Aren't you going to do anything about him?" I'm like, "That's your husband. How could you say that? Your dear old mom." And so with that, I could fill all of those expectations over 60 years of like, oh, my job is to take care of you. Oh, I forgot. And with that, I got up, walked away, and said, hey, you two have a nice conversation. They sat there for half an hour, never said a word until dinner was over. And they just went on it because that's what they would always do. But my job was to take care of dear old mom, right? So you can imagine my separation would be very low, incredibly low, because if I separated from mom, I could just feel her disappointment. So with that piece, read through all of these elements, right? About the healthy, the core beliefs, the reflection questions. And what is that revealing about the shadow side of helping when operating from a low level of separation? All right, reflections. What sense do you make of that? What that means? Anyone?
I look at it like from the organizational standpoint, like I'm part of a huge organization and the kind of the reality of a struggle of being overburdened. So, I don't know, these are really interesting for me to think about because I think I've, evolved all of these traits over the years, where I feel like I have a healthy level of these. And but I do think there's something about limits that we would like to impose versus what's imposed on us from an expectation standpoint for the people that we work for. And so this is interesting. I don't have an answer. I'm just
Yes.
kind of sharing that this is a reality
Yeah.
of my world and a lot of people that probably I impose a lot of things on who work for me.
Yeah.
And not really realizing kind of all of the dynamics because it just piles up. I've got things at home that I would like to take care of, but then I have responsibility from a work perspective that
Yeah.
I feel like I don't have a choice in
Yes.
in order to make sure the bills are paid, make sure that deadlines are
Yes.
met, making sure
Yes.
that I'm checking all the boxes for HR, all these endless things. And like,
Yes.
where does separation come in? Where does,
Yes.
where does um, my underlying needs, like, filter into
Yeah.
these sort of things? It's really a
Yeah.
complex problem, I think.
Absolutely is. And when you get those external expectations from an organization, a boss, from a church, from all kinds of people, again, coming at us, what is and isn't my responsibility? So a couple questions there. The first one is where, when, and with whom do you tend to overfunction or overextend or care too much or carry too much for either someone else's well-being or in an organization or especially in the church for all of those people's well-being? So just reflect on that.
Mhm.
This is for anybody. I'm sorry. And any thoughts from anybody? Is there anything that you notice, any pattern in your life?
Yeah, Greg, I had noticed being the peacekeeper of the family and having that job of keeping the peace and keeping people happy
Yes.
has been, and then that can make me lead to just right to fix it mode so I can
Yes.
keep the smiles on people's faces.
Absolutely. So again, there's a family culture that you can fill that. Coco talked about a organizational culture. There can be a culture in the church. There could be a culture in our country. And those are just the cultures that I'm thinking about. And there may be other cultures that are impacting you. We're going to skip the next question about how do you care without carrying. If we get time at the end, we'll come back to that. But let's just kind of settle in. What percentage might this piece be influencing your motivation to help meeting the expectations and needs of others and having to sacrifice your own and not being able to set limits or have boundaries? So just give it a number. Okay. Let's move on to the third character trait of integration. And I just want to share an example just from this weekend of actually where, because I was actually a little bit more integrated than usual, it was a helpful thing, even though I wasn't really helpful. We had a Noah's birthday party was Saturday morning, right? And so we had done some things to get ready for that and all week and all everything else for the week. But by Saturday morning, I was exhausted. And I really, I had nothing left. I truly was this. Other than for me, when I'm with my grandkids, they just love to play, and Papa loves to play too. And I can do that in my sleep, and it's really, really fun. But then when I get tired, I just kind of walk away unless I'm responsible for that kid, and I just go do my own thing, which is maybe nothing, kind of a thing. And so when I got there, I could just feel the expectation. In fact, a family member shamed me last time because I didn't talk to everybody who was there. And I just told them I didn't really care. They're all their friends, not my friends. And so I know that expectation, right? Is like, oh, ask questions. How are you? What are you doing today? How's your kids? Tell me about your life. And I'm like, oh, I was like, I don't have that. And so I was very unhospitable. I'm probably unfriendly. And I didn't initiate anything with anybody. And after they asked me an initial question, I answered, I didn't ask them any questions. And I just went and I found the grandkids. And I thought, probably there were some people that didn't think very nicely of me, like, wow, he's really like in his own world. And and I went off and I did it the next day at church. I'm still really exhausted because the rest of the day, in a church, I want to make small, hey, so how's your day going? I didn't care. So I didn't talk to anybody. I was very happy doing that. And imagine they didn't think I was if they had known I was a pastor, they'd be like, oh, well, what kind of a pastor? You're a pastor who doesn't care about anybody. But because my integration was actually working, it saved me because again, I didn't have anything and I would have just been resentful. So, so for this one, integration, I want you to read through the pieces there. And what is that revealing about this shadow side of helping when operating from a low level or a deficit of integration? So some reflections as you read through that.
This reminds me of like, um, if it's 0 for integration, if you have no integration, it's a black and white kind of, you see things black and white, and people are just, they're there, you're just going to fix them. And I kind of resonate with it because my father, love him, but he's also, if you want to ask him about touchy-feely things, you might choose to go someplace else to be able to get some of those needs met, rather than, if you want a solution and a drop dead answer, he'll give it to you right away.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yes, absolutely. Nice, thanks. One more person, what reflections, what comes up for you as you read through those pieces about integration and how that can impact your service?
You remember at Townsend, it was the English psychologist, kind of like Dr. Spock, but I can't remember his name. He was a pediatrician, but went into psychology, and he taught people that sometimes mothers, he taught him, you're good enough. What you've done is good enough. And sometimes we just have to say, good enough for today and
My
be okay
caring is,
with
yeah,
ourselves.
my caring is good enough for today. It doesn't have to be perfect. I don't have to overfunction. So the
Absolutely.
question for all of you then is, what percentage of your serving is fueled by motivation to be either seen as faithful or selfless or the ideal mom, more than by a settled sense of being loved, whether or not you give? So again, just put a number down, and you're the only one that's going to see those numbers. And the final piece is adulthood. And unfortunately, I have a really good friend. I love him to death, but he loves being the expert teacher, coach, counselor, mentor that everybody comes to for advice. But the reality is, though, it's a lot less vulnerable to do it that way than to be equal and needing anybody else. So you kind of know it all. You're kind of one up, works really well for you in the area of adulthood. So again, read through what some of those things I've written about that. And again, what's revealing about the shadow side of helping when operating from this adulthood, when you're somebody wants to be one up or like the parent when it comes to helping. Reflections?
I don't think I ever get to adulthood.
Okay.
Once in
Others?
once in a while.
Okay. Okay. Others? What comes up around this adulthood piece that's interesting for you in light of what I wrote?
So, Greg, in the one up position, this appears to be looking like someone would be making someone feel one up, like they need to have this one up feeling, where I often feel like I am less than or one down. So I just thought it was my weak muscle, not someone else making me feel that way. But people actually have the one up feeling.
Uh-huh. You could find professors, pastors, leaders, CEOs. They like being the kind of the go-to boss and know-it-all, and everybody needs me kind of a thing. It doesn't mean that that's all they are, but they like that, and it feels really safe to be that person rather than to be like, I need something from somebody. So yes, they could kind of impose that because that's how they show up. They're kind of better than you. But they would never say that. But you know that's where they're coming from.
It's also an interesting team dynamic when you have like tension on a team. There might be bickering or whatever, and if you look closely, can find that there's one person who's really monopolizing because they don't trust anyone, and it comes back to this issue. So it's really interesting. You wouldn't necessarily think that it would be an adulthood issue, but I think it 100% is.
Yeah. And often those underlying motivations are below the surface and we can't see them unless somebody has those skills. And you do, I believe most, if not all of you do, you can actually see it for what it really is. You're like, oh, that's the dynamic that's there. Because I could figure out, because looking at the surface, it's like we're just having conflict, but there's these pieces that are underneath. So as you think about this piece, what's the number that you would give? What's the percentage that might be influencing your motivation to help, either coming at it from a one-up position? All right. So we're going to kind of pull back from that. And this next question is really kind of this bigger piece. Like, so Gregg, why did you take us through all that? Like, what's so important to understand about all of one's motivation? These, right, there's these pure, but there's these other motivations that are kind of in the shadows. So why do you think that could be really important to see our helping for what it really is and for what it really isn't?
Is it to help establish healthy boundaries?
I think that could be certainly a piece of it, is to understand what our healthy boundaries are, saying no, yes. Others?
To live the healthiest, most functional life that we can, not
Yeah, yeah, living out of health rather than dysfunction. Absolutely.
And it's really better for the people we're helping if we're helping in a healthy way rather than over functioning for them because of whatever reason.
Absolutely. It's better for them too. Wonderful. So here's the question then. So I wrote it initially, why am I really doing this? I'm going to rephrase it and say, why else am I doing this? So again, right, the above the surface, what we say is, I care about people. I want to help them grow, or it's for the glory of God, or we're commanded to serve. Yes. But the underlying piece is, why else am I doing this? And so that's the question why we go through all of this, because that's an important piece to take a look at. Why else am I giving? Just to be able to be honest with ourselves. And with that, we're going to move on to the fourth piece then. Okay, refueling solutions. These are God's design for refillable souls. Remember, these are actually, we're made this way. It's not good for a man or woman to be alone because we leak. And so we have to get refilled to be able to be optimized. So there's a couple ideas around here. First is just to refresh spiritually. I know most of you are like, of course. But this isn't just about going to church and reading your Bible and practicing spiritual disciplines, as good as they are. This is about intimacy with God. And so, just for a moment, let's just step back. And what do we learn when we see Jesus' pattern withdrawing to be alone and to be with his Father?
Mm.
In what ways was that refueling? Thoughts?
It reinforces our attachment.
Oh, yeah.
It's a huge attachment piece to be attached to God in that way. Absolutely. So, what spiritual practice bring life to you, not more pressure? because I happen to think those disciplines are really important, but then they can also become pressured. So is there one that you'd say, hey, boy, it really helps me to have contemplative prayer. That really helps me. But is there a spiritual practice that helps bring life to you? Just name it out loud.
The
Worship.
silence and solitude. That really helps.
Yep. Okay, great. Someone else?
I said worship.
Worship. Yes. Great. Someone else?
The Kurt Thompson exercise of
Mm.
visualizing being eye to eye with Jesus and him saying, I love you. You're perfect as you are. I made you the
Yeah.
way you are. I accept you. I love you.
Yes. Great. So when those are life-giving, that's wonderful. So I want you to reflect, and again, this is just really more for your own reflection on this piece, is that where might I have slipped into working for God, or maybe for some of you it's performing for God more than receiving from God or being with God. So again, just journal something down for your own reflection right there. So the next area is to recharge emotionally, and that needs to be with safe people. And this is being in these, and I use the word intimate, non-sexual relationships where you are seen, where you are heard, where you are valued and even celebrated. And again, I'm talking about so much more than Facebook friends, right? And so I want you to just think about some possible, I'll refer to them as filling stations, right? This is where you can stop and connect and get filled up. So having a counselor, a coach, a spiritual director, where they are primarily, I mean, you often pay them, but they give to you. They actually don't really need anything from you if that's really the nature of it. And that could be a really great thing. Another one is this would be kind of one-on-ones, and these are with comrade friendships. These are mutual, kind of resourcing one another, right? So when I talk to my life team, pretty much I get a half an hour and they get a half an hour. So I unload for half an hour and they listen and attune and care. And I feel like somebody gets me. And then, okay. And then for my friend, he gets to talk about whatever it is important, and I am to be there for him and to attune and connect. Now, again, that's very different than just having what I call VNP, very nice people, because there's lots of them. My neighbors, there's people at church, family members, all kinds of, they're really nice people, but they're not my comrades because they don't need really anything from me other than, hey, did you see the Steelers won on Sunday? Oh, no, I didn't watch it. Tell me about the game. I really don't care. So those are really nice people, but they're exhausting to me. Kind of making up conversation. We're talking about nothing of significance, but they're very nice. And that's what most of the people do. So these are not those. These are comrades, like brothers and sisters in arms. The last thing is a process or a life group. These are really safe people. And these are having kind of in the room with you and more than just one of them. And if that's something you're like, tell me more about that, or we actually have a group that's going to be starting in January. And if you want to know, just put your name in the chat and I'll tell you a little bit more about process growth groups that we have to set those up. But for this one, I want you to write down where are the emotional, relational filling stations in your life that regularly fill you up. So just jot that down. And it's okay if you're like, I don't have it. And that's a great place to start.
I want to celebrate mine. He's on the call. Keith.
Oh, nice.
Coco is a
Because
comrade, and my goodness, we go deep all the time. It's so nice. For
it,
sure.
it is. And if you look at that next piece, which relational nutrients do you need the most? I imagine you get some, if not most, if possibly even all of those from each other. And that's what having a great life group or a life team can do for you. So I want to just invite everybody just to look at that list and just circle the ones that like, man, I need that relational nutrients. So just circle those. And as you do, pick one of them that you can ask someone safe to meet that need this week. And then just write that down. Say, you know, something, I'm going to ask for my need to be celebrated. Okay, next area, renew mentally. And for this one, this is about disengaging and kind of getting a reset. And it's just simply giving your permission, your brain, to disconnect from thinking about others' needs, thinking about what's on your iPhone, thinking about responding to text and social media and TV and videos and apps and a thousand different things on social media is just allowing yourself to say no and disconnect from it. And it'll make space for you. The other idea is around micro Sabbaths and just short daily breaks. Just a moment in your day where you unplug. Plus, there's things like days off that are really sacred. There's also things like vacations, and it's not vacation and doing, going, going, going. When you come home, you're more tired than when you left. It's about actually doing less so that you can get renewed. So the question for under this one is, what's something that you can unplug from this week? Again, just reflection, write it down, kind of a thing. And again, if anybody doesn't have the worksheet, it was in the email I sent earlier today. I did put it back in the chat again, and you can pull it up from there if that would be helpful. Okay, next area is restore physically. It basically means respect your body, things like sleep, nutrition, movement, and rest. It's actually a stewardship of your calling. It's not selfishness. And so there's a passage there from Matthew 11. It should be pretty familiar to most of you. If not, you can read it. But as you do, what does that mean in light of that? In light of that, Jesus took naps in boats, right, in the middle of the day, right? He withdrew to lonely places. What does that mean to you, especially in terms of this idea of restoring physically and maybe a bit mentally?
Just that it's okay to step back.
There it is. It's okay. You have permission to just step away. Nice. It's nice that that's actually part of what God wants for us, to rest because that helps us to recover and that restores our energy. Nice. A few weeks ago, it was just a really challenging week in terms of everything: home, family, work, clients, everything. And I was out of gas. I mean, I was running on empty, physically, emotionally, mentally. And in this particular day, I had this training at night for there's a couple of folks that are in our this coaching cohort that we're in the middle of, and I had that coming at night, and it was kind of a big deal, right? And I realized for whatever reason, I woke up 4 hours early,
Mm.
and I'm like, oh, this is not good. And I was like, I can't go back to sleep, so I guess I'm starting my day. at 3:30. That's not a good start to a day, especially when I have training that night. And during the day, I also missed my grandkids. Them in. So I end up missing my nap recovery in the afternoon. And then so I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a train wreck. Like it's for my class, I seriously was afraid I'd either fall asleep or I'd just be a blubbering mess. And then all of a sudden I got panicked. And I'm like, oh gosh, I'm screwed. This is, oh my gosh, how have I, and the shame and everything like that. And everything is just kind of melting down on the inside. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. And then all of a sudden I was like, wait a minute, my life team. And so two of them happened to be in this cohort. And so I knew they were coming and I just reached out to them and they just sat with me and the expression to sit in the well. There really wasn't anything I could do, like, hey, Greg, go take a nap. No, actually, the session opens in like 45 minutes. There's no time, right? They didn't do any of that. They just sat with me and they listened to me and they grieved with me. And they even said, you kind of blew it right today. I was like, yeah, I really did. And man, I'm still with you. And I'll be there tonight with you. And no matter what happens, man, I'm not going away. And so two of them did it. And all of a sudden, I could just feel this empty cup got just enough that I actually could pull it off. And it was just so nice. So I give that as an example because here were people that filled me and it turned into some physical renewing, mental re-engagement, and emotional and even spiritual about what I was doing. And the night ended up being, I'm not even sure if Jamie and Rich were there, if they would even have known what night it was, other than I don't know if I even mentioned it because it just gave me enough gas to them. Then after that, I crashed, and the next day I crashed, and things like that. But that's really important. So I just wanted to kind of pull all those pieces together before I shift to this last one, because this is a little less, this is just a little bit different. And it says re-energize personally. And this idea is what fills your soul. So this is less about like who, this is about more the what. So what uniquely fills you up? It just gives you joy to do it. And so again, what are some of the things that make you feel alive?
Walking.
So walking, great. What's another one for somebody?
The gym.
Gym. Okay, another one.
Doing
Sitting on my
cultural
deck.
thing.
Sitting at a desk. And then Coco, what was yours?
I think she said deck.
Deck. Yes,
Oh,
sitting on
deck.
my
Oh,
back
okay.
deck.
Sitting on my desk. Sorry.
Not so much that.
No. Any other
Doing
ones?
doing
For me,
cultural things that are enriching.
And culturally enriching things are great things. Absolutely. But again, for you, for
Mhm.
others of you, you're like, ugh, go to the gym. Like, well, but for Keith, it brings life back into him. So I want you to do is lift, what are your two top life-giving practices? And what are your top two life-sucking patterns or commitments?
Mm.
Online dating.
So for this one, you can just write the answers down, but I appreciate the levity. Yes, thank you. All right. The fifth and final piece is say yes and say no from a healthy place. So yes should be rooted in who you are and what's really important and what's really life-giving for you. No's should be rooted in what's most important to say, no, that's not the most important thing that I've either been called to, gifted to do, or have the time, the talent, or the treasures to do. Instead of we end up saying yes because of some fear or shame, or there's this lack in our core character trait. So there's a little passage from Mark 135. Again, should be a familiar story. Read it over. And then the question is, what did Jesus say yes to? And what did he say no to? So what did Jesus say yes to?
Preaching to more,
He said preaching to who?
to more of the people, the village.
Yes, and what did he actually say no to? Anyone?
Healing more people where he was at. He said yes to healing some people, but not everyone.
So isn't that interesting? I mean, healing's a good thing, right? Teaching and preaching would be good things. So why is Jesus saying no to something that's a really good thing? I mean, that's why he came, right? So why is he saying no?
Well, he didn't forget the mission. His mission was to preach to all the villages. And so he was saying no to Capernaum where he'd already been because the others lay ahead.
Yes. So do you see why, again, saying yes and saying no are both saying it to what the mission is, to what's most important? Because there are hundreds of things almost every day that are really good things. Very easy to say yes to. Actually, you don't have to say anything to them, and they can just, you get tons of emails. You don't have to do anything, and you start reading all of them. You can spend your whole day reading people's emails to you about whatever kind of a thing. Are those good things? Probably yes. Are they the best thing? Probably not. And so learning to say yes to what's really important and no to that. So,
Hey, excuse
yeah,
me, Greg. Also,
yeah,
I wanted to point out that he said yes to himself because he went out way before dawn
he did.
to a
Yes,
secluded spot and he prayed.
he did. Again, the church culture, I've been a part of that my entire 65 years, is you typically say, right, Jesus, others, yourself is last. But here's Jesus actually kind of choosing that to get what he needed, maybe quiet, maybe silence. I'm pretty sure it's with his father, and maybe even to reflect on his mission. Because right after that, right, they want to come again. I'm like, hey, we got more people lined up. I know we had it all night. We got a big revival going. Let's keep going. And he basically says, nope. And can you imagine how disappointed they were? Hey, wait a minute. I thought that's what we're supposed to be doing. Uh, we've done all that we need to do here. Well, there's more people that are sick. There's more needs that are there. There is, but not every need is a call from God for you to meet that need. Is it? And so there were some needs that Jesus did not meet. So there's a couple journaling questions. We'll just take a minute to allow you to do that. But Am I saying yes out of freedom and mission, or out of pressure or an underabundance of a core character traits? And where have I not said a healthy no, but I need to?
Dinner. I'm in class. I'll be done in a few minutes.
Just take one more minute to reflect on that. All right. Let's come back to myself, right? And so here's some of the things that we've actually talked about, right? So this one here is going to be God. And these are all of his resources. And we're not just talking physical or mental and spiritual, but also emotional. We talked about that attachment piece. And so when we're with him, there's a sense of like, that is really life-giving. And that really does fill up our tank, fill up our cup. And that's a great, great source. But he also gave us the body of Christ. And so for me, I put down comrades, life group, and a life team. And so these are people that it's a mutual resourcing. Now, what's great about God is that for the most part, he's the source and I'm the sourcee, and I can just take and take from him, right? That's, of course, it's also designed that then it ends up helping me to be able to give to others out of a cup that's overflowing. But he's also given us people that in the body of Christ that are more than just nice people and acquaintances, but these are comrades, it's your life group. And what I find with them, it's a mutual resourcing. And so as they pour into my life, I also pour into their life, not in a transactional, but a transformational way. And so again, as I connect with them every week, I have these people in my life. There's this sense of that they help refill me, they replenish me, and I get from them because there's this other cool thing. It's a side note, but God is actually filling them to fill me. And so that's another way, because he has like these two avenues. He does it directly and he does it indirectly. But those are great ways that he sources me for what I need. So that again, I can go back here and there are some people in my family, especially these 5 lovely grandkids, they suck all the energy out of me. And I'm more than happy to pour and invest in their lives for eternity. Well, another cool thing is that there are some other people that can be really important to have in your life. And this could be a counselor, it could be a spiritual director, it could be a coach. And again, what's really cool about these people is that, again, if you find the right ones, and you have to usually pay them, but they actually kind of are great sourcing. And that really helps me. And so those, they don't really need anything back from me, and they can be helpful as well. And then the final piece that we talked about is I just call it generally good things. And these are things that are life-giving to you. I turn things like walk, sit on my deck, exercise, and cultural events. I happen to like all of those too. And so again, I find that they may not be quite as much as the people fuel, but man, that's really good. And then before I know it, if I'm filled back up, just like God designed us to. And then when it comes to people that I work with, there's something left over for them. And then there's my service and ministry church. It comes out of a cup that's overflowing. There are clients and ministry and people that I'm investing in, and it comes out of this fullness of my life. It doesn't come out of an emptiness. And that is really a game changer for me. And the idea is that I hope that it will be a game changer for you as well. And they provide things like acceptance and validation, celebration. And they also provide the other tough ones like challenge and feedback and all of those things that help me to grow. So I hope that you've got some ideas of how your cup can now be filled so that it can overflow, that it's enjoyable for you, it's enjoyable for the people around you, and ultimately it's pleasing to God. So here's what I'd love to hear in the couple minutes we have remaining. Is my challenge to you is, what is one compulsive yes that you need to stop doing because it's just life sucking? Or what's one intentional no that'll keep your cup from being drained? You just need to say, nope, I got to say no to that because that just sucks off more energy and I'm already out of gas. So I'd love to hear from as many of you as possible in the 4 minutes that are remaining. What's a compulsive yes that you need to stop doing? Or what's an intentional no that you need to actually say no to so that it doesn't keep sucking the life out of you? Love to hear
I need
from
to
you.
start saying I need to start saying more yeses to me.
Yeah. Wonderful. What else?
Jumping in and offering to help when it wasn't asked for, but because I know I could do it and probably do it better. And then a no is, there's one person in my life who's a really negative person, and it's become life sucking, and I can't quite figure out how to unplug. So those are the two for me.
Wonderful. Another?
My compulsive yes that I need to stop is social media.
Okay.
It's so easy.
It is. It is. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Another one?
I would say my intentional no is simply holding to boundaries with work. Because I know that when I extend my boundary to feel that value, it leaves me feeling drained for my family at the end of the day. So I have to be really intentional about it. And I've been relaxed about it lately, just to, I think, feed that own feeling of feeling valued, honestly. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And I
being
love how you just
intentional.
yes. And I love how you just kind of named it there, because that's the truth.
It's the
Wonderful.
hard, ugly truth.
Just a couple more.
A compulsive yes is going to be, I love talking fitness and nutrition to anybody that walks. And so what I've noticed is, I think the adulthood thing, it's like I can fix you in no time at all, and I can do it with a smile on my face. And let me just not expend all that energy for that.
Nice. That's
I
great,
enjoy
Steve. I
it,
love
but
it.
not everything. Yeah.
Right. Wonderful. Absolutely. Great.
Good.
Couple more. One more person. What's going to be your yes or no?
I would love to say email on meetings, but I think that's going to be a process.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that, and thank all of you for being here. The last thing I want to say, and then we're finished, I'll stay on for questions afterwards, is earlier I had mentioned about that coaching cohort, and I just want to extend an invitation if you're interested in finding out more about that, about this training that we start in the new year for being certified as a NeuroChange coach with some ICF accreditation. Just drop your email into the chat and I'll just send you some more information. With that, again, great being with all of you. Thanks and good night. And I'll stay on for anybody that has any other questions. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Greg. Good
Greg.
night.
Thanks. It was
Good
great.
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you,
Good
guys.
night. Yep. Anyone have any questions? Okay. Anything at all? Mindy, you're good. Deborah, you're good. Have a great
Good.
night. All
Thank
right,
you.
bye now. Yeah.